My friend, my brother, my elder. Feels so good to say that. I just turned 65, so I'm a bona fide senior citizen, whatever that means. Waiting for my med card and all that stuff, kind of stuff. Bona fide old, that's kind of a nice thing about life. When people tell you, and where's Ricky? I want to blow her a kiss again, sweetheart. So good to see you. You're precious. You're awesome. All of you are. This church is my home, away from home, and I so love the model that has been created here over the years. It's been perfected. But every time I come, there's tweaking, and you change things and add and expand. It's beautiful. Your leader is amazing. His vision for people. He's a mystic, and there's a lot of great New Thought people and New Thought churches. Some of them haven't actually had a New Thought in 40 years, unfortunately. But every time I come here, the New Thought is new, and it keeps getting newer and newer and fresher and fresher. He'll quickly say it's ancient wisdom. I remember hearing that from him the first time. That's what New Thought is. There's a recycling going on in the earth, and we are in a cycle at the beginning of a new one. I think you sense that and feel it. All the things that have been happening are a precursor to a more defined and refined culture, spiritually and socially and culturally in America. It's time for change. I think you realize that. I'm ready to go to the next level in every area of my life. That's for sure. It's been a costly journey in ways. If you saw the movie, that's just a fraction of the pathos and pain. When we had the City of Faith, we built it at ORU, on the ORU campus. I was on the executive committee for that, and it cost us $250,000 to do it. $250 million, I should say, and by now twice that much. But it was Oral's vision. He was a healing evangelist. People came to him for 40 years for hospital prevention, not invention, and then he built one, and his followers couldn't shift. So it failed. That's not the only reason, but that's one of the reasons in his lifetime it failed. But it's still there, and now there are hospitals and clinics working and operating through it in the same spirit that we would have had. So I saw that happen, and I saw it not happen. But his emphasis was healing. And he believed that healing and science were friends, that prayer and science were friends. He wanted to take a more practical approach. Leaders go through a huge shift and a huge constant evolution when they're trying to lead people. We had a portion of the hospital that was for anonymous for preachers, particularly we have the faith emphasis and healing emphasis and miracle emphasis. We didn't want to go to the hospital and everybody know we were there. You get it? You get it? It's a little bit of a facade, but we had it because Oral himself believed in medicine and had had surgery and had been to the hospital several times. And he built this hospital, but we had it so people, and if I named some of them, you would know. Most of them, you would know the people who came in. And I had some people in my church who worked in anesthesia. And I went in to have something done to one of my feet, and my musician came in to have something done for his kidneys because he was a police officer here in L.A. at one time, had been shot. So we go in, and, within a day or so, and we're out. And these people in my church came and said, Pastor, we need to really talk to you. I said, what's the problem? I come in. They said, well, we work in anesthesia at the City of Faith, and you and Matthew are the only ones that ever came in there, preachers that came in there. One of you sang and one of you preached. The whole time you're under are the first stages when you go under. I said, which one preached? He said, the other one preached, so you sang and worshiped. I said, that's probably what I really want to do more than preach. But he said every other preacher that came in there, including Oral, when he went under, they just started cussing like sailors from whatever cussing like sailors means. I said, they said, and it really blew our mind, and they named a list of preachers. And I said, well, let me just tell you something. People in the ministry who are preachers can be some of the most abused and at times angry, particularly in the fundamentalist movement, angry people who want to cuss but can't. Because we believe in holiness. You have a few words that come in your mind, so you suppress them. But some people, they become cancers, and they become tumors, and they become growths, and they don't know how to manage their pain. Anger is a signal emotion. it signals other emotions or commotions or even devotions in your life that have not been properly processed. And so it can fester and metastasize into something physical and manifest that way. And so I said, these preachers, when they first give them anesthesia, they relax, they begin totally uninhibited, and whatever's in there comes out. You know, y'all can get by with cussing, but we can't cuss you out. That doesn't mean we didn't think of it a time or two. So in my line of work, because they emphasize an angry God, you'll be followed by angry adherents. If your God says, vengeance is mine, I will repay, and you're devoted to that God, you have that same spirit operating in you. If your God says, I'm a jealous God, thou shalt have no other gods but me. He didn't say there were no other gods. He just said, thou shalt have none before me. He didn't say besides me, because we all have gods beside him. But he said, he said, I got to be number one. I'm a jealous God. I'm vengeful. I'm angry. I have at least 6,000-year-old grudge. I'm going to burn the hell out of everybody one of these days. My next level of consciousness, I fired that God, and it's been a long, tedious journey, because I've been in this all my life. 4th generation classical Pentecostal preacher, and now I call myself a Metacostal, because I began to study metaphysics and that particular spiritual approach to life and thought and values and universal perceptions. It's been powerful. And my Pentecostal roots actually inform my present new thought expansion. And consciousness is a state of being awake or aware. It's to know more than believe. Religion insists that you believe. Consciousness insists that you know. I think we all actually came here knowing, as some of you have heard me say, but between the womb and the tomb, we forget. We go through this amnesia, because people start telling us what to believe, and that supersedes what we know. And we press down that we know we're okay, and we know we're good, and we know we're gods, and we know we're anointed, we know we're sent here with a mission, we know that we're appointed and anointed, but we forget that and start feeling like we should grovel and try to find God. Ignore the one we are and try to find another one. And you did that, and that other one was me. That other one said, I regret that I made you. That other one said, my spirit will not always strive with humans because they're mortal. That one said, I'm going to drown every human being and every animal on the planet except for Noah and his family. I'm going to drown them. Teenagers, senior citizens, pregnant women. I'm going to drown them all. And then later on, yes, many babies, crawling babies, infant child, I want to just drown them. And then when that's over, they're going to mess up again, and I'm not going to use water. I don't like all those smelly, bloated bodies and babies, and it took 120 days for the water to recede, and the stench was foul. Let's just burn them next time. That's in your Bible if you have one. And I realize a lot of you don't, but you done got your deliverance. Did you see that? You can try to be as cool as you think you are and then drink wrong. Get a... It's a strong... Well, that just humbles her right back down. So anyway, what happened to this thing? Let me see, there, yon it is. So, what are you aware of? What do you know? And I often ask this question. I like to ask it everywhere I go. I've asked it here before. I think, what's working for you? That's working as you. What's working for you? What's not working for you? If you were to make a list of the two, which would be the longest? And what's working on you? What keeps you awake at night? What itch makes you keep scratching? That's your God nature, the desire to create. The most like God you are is that your ability to create. And you're creating right now. You're creating moments and realities. You're creating saliva and urine and capillaries. And the first 9 months of our lives, we swim in our mother's amniotic fluids. We have some kind of gills or something. You're actually 80% water. Your brain remains that. When you're born, your brain and your body is 80% water. As we age, adults, we're about 50 to 60% water. Moisture, mist, and mysteries, and mysticism. You are fluid, or in the flow. You have fluidity. That's why what you're called more than what your name does affect your chemistry, because you're constantly vibrating. Put your hands up to your ears. I think I've had you do that, and just press, everybody, on both sides. Press, not real hard, but hard enough till you hear that hum. You hear that hum? Yeah. That's the sound of the blood running and vamping and coursing through your veins. That basically means you're alive. So if you ever put your hands up there and you don't hear nothing, you done checked out. When somebody says to you, how are you doing? They're basically saying, how are you dying? Because from the time we call it transitioning. From the time you're born, you start that incline to decline to the next form that you will appear in some other reality. So if somebody says, how you dying this morning? You might say, oh, I'm dying pretty good. And if you're not feeling good, you say, how you dying? I ain't dying so good today. I got a cold. You die good or you die bad, or you die or you do. Your doing and your dying are friends, because you're on your way to your next form, to the next. Jesus said, in my Father's house there are many mansions. He actually meant dimensions. Floors, spaces, places, levels, spheres, paces, apartments and condos and places to live. All the same house, but different floors. Now, we're not just multi-dimensional beings. We are interdimensional. We can go from one floor to another in a matter of seconds. That's why you forget you're on one floor and you're on another floor and you have a conversation. There's always conversations going on. In fact, the scripture says, in beginning was the word. That really means the conversation, logos. And the conversation was God. And the conversation was with God, and the conversation with God. So we're constantly conversing with our God self. You're constantly having an interaction, talking and listening to your own divinity, bridging it to your humanity. That's the next level that people are going to consciously go to. Religion, in about the next 30 to 50 years, maybe 100 at the most, religion as we've known it will dissipate and ultimately disappear. Yeah. Because the word religion actually comes from a Latin derivative that means to be bound or in bondage. One of the first things that the scriptures recorded as saying as a word from God is you are free to eat from any tree or truth in the garden. Even the apple that has a bite out of it. Y'all done ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil if you got apple products, so now you become like gods. That's what your scripture says. The day you eat of that tree or truth, you'll become like divinities, like divine entities. Oh, now they have eaten of the tree and become like us, knowing that word is science. Conscience means with science. Conscientia in Latin, with knowledge. They are scientists. There's a science to what you call good. There's a science to what we call evil. Science means to experiment or to express or to experience. You eat from the tree of the experiment of good or the experiment of evil. And they're not enemies. They help define each other. Talk to me, somebody. Yes. We make them enemies. They know their place. They know their space. And you mustn't be afraid of either. Fear is faith in reverse. Fear of a snake or serpent is faith in its power to destroy you. Fear in an earthquake or a storm or a tsunami or your children or your spouse. All of that is faith in their ability, their presumed ability to harm you. Can you imagine living a fearless life? Not even a God who, in America, if you say he's a God-fearing man, that means you're supposed to be able to trust him, or a God-fearing woman. You're supposed to be able to trust her because she fears God, not loves God, but fears God and won't break the rules so God won't kill them. And so you can trust them to be fairly moral. That's really what that means. What you fear most, you will ultimately experience. Same as what you faith most, you ultimately experience. Now, be thinking of questions you're going to ask in a little bit. I had a conversation 22 years ago. We had, some of you might remember the Oklahoma bombing when 180 people were killed in the Murrah building in Oklahoma City. Timothy McVeigh bombed it. The same day that happened, I had at my Azusa conference in Tulsa, which we hosted for 15 years. Sometimes as many as 50,000 people would come through Tulsa to that conference in 1 week. I had Jim Bakker, fresh out of prison. Yeah, that's back in my Jim Bakker days. I like Jim because he let me preach on his live television. I was the first African-American to preach a live revival on that television. Then later on, I did it with TBN, but it was PTL first. Tammy loved me to be the co-host if Jim couldn't make it. I was in the big time. And the big crime, evidently. So, anyway, I sent Jim a letter when he was in prison. I knew he had a 40-year sentence, but I sent him a letter and invited him to the conference as a speaker so he wouldn't be caught up on 40 years. I wanted to give him a little sense of hope that he could get out. I didn't know that he would so quickly, but he did. I don't know, maybe I was planting a seed for my own sins. But he came to the conference, and I won't tell you the whole, but anyway, it was the same day of the bombing. So the governor, Frank Keating at that time, called me and said, Bishop, we had this terrible bomb, you know about it? I said, yes, sir, I do. He said, listen, we're doing a memorial service this coming Sunday. Can you come down, bring your wife, and close the memorial service out? I need something positive and energetic because it's going to be a sad, somber. I don't know how we're going to deal with it. I've asked Dr. Graham to come and be the chief eulogist. Would you come? I said, absolutely. Be happy to be there. Our conference ends on Friday. I'll drive in early Sunday morning. He called the next day and said, oh, my God. You got to come earlier. Listen, the Clintons are coming, their cabinet's coming, satellite, CNN's going to be there. I have to entertain the president. I've got to meet the Air Force One. Can you come early and entertain Dr. Graham? Now, any young preacher, this is 22 years ago, so I wasn't into inclusion and stuff yet, but I sure wanted to meet with Dr. Graham, even though we'd heard things in the past that he has ultimately changed. So I hosted him that day, and I remember standing there, there's the butler and the chef, and all the staff was standing there at the governor's mansion, and they opened the door, and he breathes in, face a little creased and wrinkled, but nicely tanned from being Billy Graham. Shoulders stooped, hair a little thinning, nice little rents on it, so some of the grays aren't seen. And Parkinson's has started, so he's doing this. And he goes to every person, every waiter, every steward, and hugs them. And finally, me and my wife and his wife, Ruth and Franklin, they take us to a special place to eat. And I've never met this man other than that day, and haven't seen him other than that day, and never had a conversation with him other than that day. And the first thing he said to me after we sat down, I said, where you go next, Rev? Where's your next appointment? He said, well, I don't do a lot of preaching anymore, traveling. I'm pretty much retired. I'm writing my memoirs. And it hurts to even hold a pen. This is very painful. And I watched him shaking, and I'm thinking about the ministry and who this guy is and how many thousands and millions he's spoken to. He says, you know, I've been preaching over 50 years, and I think the world is worse than it was when I started. I'm confused. I said, what do you mean, sir? Please, Dr. Man, what are you talking about? He said, what am I doing in Oklahoma City for the first worst act of terrorism on American soil in our history? He said, this isn't New York or San Francisco or LA, it's Oklahoma City. I just dedicated your school up the road there in 1965 so that things like this wouldn't happen and the world would improve. But I'm wondering where I went wrong. You talk about next level consciousness. This man was about 80 when he said this to me. Or his late 70s, because it's been 22 years and he died at 98, I think. So I'm getting nervous because I don't know what to say to this giant. He said, you young boys have it easy. You could jump on a supersonic jet and be anywhere in the world in hours. He said, we had to get on ships and travel 3 weeks to get to India. We couldn't stay there 3 days or even 3 weeks. We had to stay 3 months. I missed my children's football and basketball practices and games. He says, it wasn't for my wife. She's sitting behind him, just shrinking with osteoporosis and constant pain. She said nothing. He said, got tears, and I said, she raised my family. I was away from them. And I was busy trying to convert a world that I hadn't convinced. He said to me, I think I'm going to stop trying to convert people and just try to convince them that they're loved by God. Powerful. Well, that was way before inclusion, but that helped inspire me to rethink what I believe, why I believe it, how those beliefs add to or subtract from the quality of my life, and will my visit on this planet count for anything as far as enhancing and improving the life of the planet. Jesus said, upon this rock I'll build my church. He didn't use the word kuriakos in the Greek translation, which would mean assembly or congregation. He used the word ecclesia, ek meaning out of klesis, the called out ones. He didn't say, upon this rock I'll build Christianity. He said, I will build people who hear the call. Whether their name is Buddha or Mahatma Gandhi, whether they came before or after me, if they hear the call in their soul, that's what the church is. There's a summons of the soul that comes from divinity. And you're hearing it. That's why you're here. When you first hear it, it doesn't make absolute clear sense in your human intellect, but as it goes down into your spirit, it begins to resonate with your essence. With your soul, with your spirit. When I say your essence, I mean your permanent rather than your accidental self. Your immortal, immutable, immeasurable, immediate self. That's always here and now. Next level. What floor is next for you? When I said what's working for you, what's working against you, what's working on you, then what's working as you? How do you show up in the universe? What happens when you walk into a room? What happens when you arrive at your house? What happens when you come on the job, when you go in a classroom, when you just walk through a mall or a service station or stop at a Quick Trip or a 7-Eleven? What energy follows you, and what sign or signal or design, because you came here knowing, and your assignment has to do with your significance or your significance and the signature of your soul that signed and gave you acceptance and right to come to this plane of consciousness to experience your divinity. This plane or planette or plan. And we're all involved in it. You agreed to come here, but most of us forgot the agreement, got over here and panicked and started robbing banks and stuff. The only time I ever panic is when I have a lapse of memory. I go through that amnesia and I forget that I made a covenant with my soul, and the soul carries the syllabus of your life. It's the course and cause and class that you take and that you are. And if you don't go within, you'll go without. So when you go into the soul and you check the syllabus, it reminds you not only that you're here, but why you're here. And that knowledge reminds you of the power that you are and the power that you have. Turn to somebody and say, I'm not weak, I'm strong. Say, I'm not only ambitious, I'm ambitious. I'm focused. I'm faithful. I know what I'm doing. Now let's ask them how you doing and how your mama and them doing. Billy Graham died saying that, and of course, I said, guess who I had on my pulpit the other Wednesday night? He said, who? I said, Jim Baker, fresh out of prison. I said that to him because Jim Baker's, the Billy Graham family home at that time was on Heritage USA. It has been moved to the museum, but it was on PTL. And so he said, well, guess who visited him? No, he said, guess who met his plane and gave him his first home-cooked meal? I said, who, sir? He said, I did. And Ruth gave him his first home-cooked meal. I said, what? He said, guess who visited him twice in prison? I said, who, sir? He said, I did. I just kept it under the radar. And I just kissed him. I said, my God, you are a real man, a fatherly spirit who didn't judge him like most of us did. I know I did. Talk to me, somebody. The Bible says if a brother is overtaken with a fault, you who are spiritual restore him, which means repair. Not you who are religious. Right? That's why in this house, everybody's welcomed, and not only welcome, but wanted. The thing I like most about coming to Agape is don't nobody judge. Ain't nobody judging you up in here. I don't feel any judgment. You know, I might feel a little bad because I ain't a practitioner, you know, if you've come the first time. You got to learn how to eat. What's the green stuff that your pastor's made out of? The green vegetable.
Synergy drink?
Not avocado, the other, the new one that's tough. And y'all don't even know. This man is made of vegetables. He's made of vegan. Sometimes I think he's an alien from another planet. I don't like to just hear him talk. I like to hear him pray. I like to hear his phraseology. I like to hear he's getting spontaneous wisdom from the ages that flows. You got a priceless treasure here. I hope you realize. And it's taken me to the next level. Now, you're talking to a man who has preached to as many as 250,000 people at one time. And that many outside a stadium, I was told. Sounds evangelistic, but maybe. Who've laid hands on the sick and seen garters disappear and folks get off stretchers and had very great success with cancer. What some people don't know is the day I preached, the last conference I had in Tulsa, when they canceled 350 buses, the word had gotten out that Bishop Pearson was a heretic and was leading people to hell, was having a nervous breakdown, a midlife crisis. Don't go to the conference. They kicked me off the ORU campus, and I had months to get down, send my people down to the convention center. I wasn't familiar with those people. I was familiar with the Mabee Center because those are graduates. They're my friends. I got all kind of deals. I was on the Board of Regents. It was easy for me to put that conference on, paying $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a night. Then all the cameras and all the stuff we put in, $1 million sometimes to put that thing on. Everybody disappeared. Crowd never got above 4,500 in a 10,000-seat arena. And one preacher, and if I named him, you would know him because you've seen him on television. He said to me, Azusa is a train wreck. It'll never be anything again. I was so hurt and so angry and so confused. And that Sunday, I had 8,000 room nights booked that we were responsible for, and the people didn't come, so I had to pay $500,000. My top man left me right in the middle of all that. And it's one thing when people turn away from you. It's another thing when they turn against you and start clawing. And nobody can be as mean as church folk when they mad. Oh, my God. Grin in your face and said, the Lord sent me here. I was praying. I saw you in a dream. We know we're supposed to be here. 6 weeks later, they didn't get the position they want, and they walk away and talk about you like everything but a child of God. And, you know, as I say, sometimes some people, you just want to kill them and tell God you found them dead. You get to heaven and say, hey, what happened, God? Yeah, preachers deal with it too. You deal with all kind of angst. But I remember, what was I talking about? Azusa. That following Sunday, these are the steps that lead me to the expansion. That following Sunday, after the conference was over and everybody was gone, I was in the swimming pool with my son, Julian, who was about 6 at that time, 6 or 7, I think. And my doctor said, I knew he had done the examination to see if I had cancer. And he said, if you do, I'll call you. If I don't call you, everything's cool. We'll handle it later. Just make another appointment. But if I see something serious, I'll call you. So I'm in the pool with Julian. Gina and my baby girl's gone, and I'm wondering if he'll call. And of course, he did call. Nobody knew, not my wife, nobody knew this call was coming or expected. I go and pick up the phone. Short conversation. You got to come in next week. This is serious. Obviously, you have cancer. And I've had a personal vendetta against cancer since 1964 when my grandmother died of it. And I hated it. And I would fast 2 and 3 and 7 and 14 and 21 and 30 and 40 days to connect with whatever energy I thought I could with a fast to rebuke cancer. And I've had great success with that particular illness in prayer. So now it's invaded me. Are you with me? Yeah. And I'm thinking, what has just happened? Cancer has the boldness and the audacity to enter me, my Holy Ghost-filled sanctified body, my free and separated from sin soul, Then I'm dealing with cancer. I hung the phone up and I sat there. I didn't hang it up. I just had little cordless phones, and I went somewhere. And what brought me back to earth, my son was in the pool, and he used to call me Papa in those days. He said, "Come on, Papa, come on." And I knew that I had a little boy. And I said, "All right, I'm coming, son." And I said to the cancer, "I don't know exactly why you've come here. I don't know where you got the permission, because you didn't get it from me. But we need to talk. Okay, you didn't come here to kill me." First I said, "God, if I am leading millions to hell, then this is it. I think you'll probably kill me, and I want you to. If I'm wrong and had a nervous breakdown and I'm going to have people to suffer because of my error in judgment, go ahead and take me out. But I'm going to get treatment, and if you let me live, I'll know. But here's what I'm going to name cancer. You're my teacher. I'm not going to say cancer again. You're my teacher. You're going to teach me humility or grace or patience, whatever you're here to teach me, teach it. I'm a good learner. I'm a fast learner. Teach it quick and get the hell out of here back to where you came from." I said the hell, not to hell. So anyway, I don't believe anybody goes to hell, but we all go through it in some experience. And whatever that experience is, it's there to strengthen and stretch you and make you and help refine you. Not always define you, but refine you, make you more elegant and eloquent in your humanness. So that thing taught me, and I don't have time to tell you the lessons and the tears and the humiliation and the loneliness of this whole feeling, but I'll tell you one final example. I had some treatment and stuff wasn't working, and I had to go back to the same urologist, and I remember they took all my music, all my books, everything off the Christian bookstores in Tulsa. They stopped playing all my music on Christian radio. I was a dead man and dying man with cancer. No church, most of my friends gone. Kept a lot of that to myself, never showed 1 ounce of public grief. I never shed a tear publicly. I smiled everywhere I went. I was just the same. I never gave them a hint how deeply my pain was. Yeah. I learned how to compartmentalize or push it in different places. And I went on through that praying, seeking God like I've always prayed and sought God and loved God and sang and cried and worshiped and still praying in the Holy Ghost in tongues and shouting and rejoicing on my own. But I couldn't go to the same churches anymore. Nobody wanted me. They all said no. Everybody. I mean, the friends that I thought were near, the folks I got out of jail, folks I paid their rent and kept their cars from being repossessed, and couples that I had sent to islands to save their marriages, they're all sitting there in judgment. Nobody came around except Jews, and the Jewish Federation called me first. Can you believe that? People that have been marginalized by Christians. The whole LGBT community called from different sources. "We'll love you, Bishop." Gays and Jews. I said, why was that 2 more than any other? Because those are the 2 that we have been most abusive to as evangelicals. Those are the ones we've heard and hit the most. And they came around, and Bishop Flunder said, "If you're going to preach inclusion, do we coming?" I said, come on in, baby. Bring anybody. Just teach me the language. Teach me what I need to know because I'm stuck in some places, but I'm ready to break out. And I could see myself just taking off layers and layers and layers of stuff that had been wrapped around me all along for all these years. And I'm 50 when that began to happen. I kept taking another layer off and another layer off and another layer off and another layer. I'm still taking layers off every level. I remove a layer. Hallelujah. Come on, say hallelujah. I'm cancer-free, but I've learned a lot of lessons. I've been free for almost 10 years now. Glory, glory, glory. But I remember I was laying in this doctor's office. I'll close with this. I was facing the wall. And when I came in, the nurse was so sweet. She said, would you like me to put some Christian music on? I want to say, don't put that. I don't even like Christian no more, and my mama's one, so all my sisters is one, everybody I knew. But I was so hurt, and I was dealing with that, and I knew that I said, Christians don't play my music. That's all I had in my mind. So I'm laying on this table, stripped completely. They did their treatment. They leave me laying there on this table. There's blood. There's humiliation. I'm a high-profile figure in that city. Nurses have come in and out. They treat you like meat, And I'm laying there, and the music is playing, and I'm crying. And it's the most depressed time of my life. That room seemed so cold and so bland. And I felt that I was dying because I had a repeated encounter with the cancer. And they said, clean yourself up, and walked out of the room and left me there. And the radio was on. And I remember thinking, turn that thing off. They don't like me. And this song, a song I recorded, and it was me singing it, came on. I'm working on a building, it's a sure foundation. I'm holding up the bloodstained banner of our Lord. When I get through working on this old building, I'm going up to heaven to get my reward. I jumped up off that table. I washed and cleaned and cried and danced, and it was me. That was the universe reminding me that I have a reason for being here. It's not time to die. It's not time for giving up. It's time for holding on. It's not time for looking back. It's time for being strong. We must go to that next level. We must expand our consciousness. We must say yes anew and afresh to the God in us, calling to us, through us, and as us. Be still and know. Did it say be still and believe? I've graduated from believing to knowing. That's why I'm not upset about the information highway. I don't know what Steve Jobs was thinking, but I know when he died, the last 3 phrases on his mouth were, oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Well, they had told me he was into Zen Buddhism, so I knew he was going straight to hell. You have no idea how many of y'all I've sent to hell, I am so glad that I don't go around just judging. Look at them, just going straight to hell. God ain't in them, God ain't around them. Look at them, having all the fun and drinking all that wine and smoking and dancing and enjoying life. And I'm over here with God, the Lord's despised few. I got tired of being despised. The only time I've really been persecuted in my life is by Christians. The world loves me. And when I say I mean my mom and them and my sisters and my whole family. I'm not denouncing Christianity, but sometimes Christians do things because they fear God, and that fear causes us to react in certain ways. Wrap your arms around yourself. I couldn't get to the stuff I wrote, but I made this testimony service. I believe that we are called, not just Bishop Beckwith and people like us who lead ministries, all these amazing teachers in this house, the pastoral staff and the others who've earned their ordination, and the practitioners go through strenuous training. But you, the laity, Agape International Spiritual Church is unique, and more unique today than it's ever been in its history. You are church. He really is a man ahead of his time. See yourselves as also going to the next level. You're about to make a move. It's much more deep and high than you think. You are purposeful people. You are learned people. You are curious and disciplined people. You are holy and healthy, divinely certified. You cannot take that lightly, and you will be held responsible for what you're learning here. It will never leave you. Your gift will make room for you. I told that to my daughter, and I tell it to all gifted people, but you must make room for your gift. You are amazing. This is one of the healthiest churches I preach in or teach in. I know a healthy church. I discern the Spirit when I come on the parking lot. I can see it in the faces of the people and feel it, more importantly, from their essence. See yourself. If you're coming to an awakening, as I'm still awakening all the time, see, the whole people call, sometimes they get online and they're really angry and they say things because they're alarmed about what I'm saying. But the alarm only comes to wake you up. Stop pushing the snooze button. And if you do, only push it a couple of times, because you have to not only wake up, you got to get up. And that's what we're on our way to. There are masses of people that are awakening. I hear from them from all across the planet. This is a great day to be alive. I decided I was going to live a lot longer. I had expected to live a certain amount of age, and I've added 20 years to it, because I want to help be a midwife to this merging shift in consciousness. Turn to somebody and say, shift happens. Tell them you're full of it. You're full of it. You're full of all that shift. Say, you're not in trouble. You're in transition. Get your shift together. Come on now. Hey, 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 hey. Know who you are. Where you going with all this? Give somebody a high five saying it's all good. Till it's all God. I got it. I got it. I got it. We got this. Now, the blessing of the Lord maketh rich and addeth no sorrow. I'm going to stop because I want to entertain some of your questions. That's part of the testimony. You don't have a testimony without a test. You know that. When you pass the test, you graduate to the next level. I don't know how high I've graduated to, but I've passed a lot of tests. And I feel my consciousness is a lot higher because I've passed the test. If you don't pass it, you don't flunk. You just have to retake it. There's no failure or flunking. You have to retake the examination. How many of you know you're in a test right now? You're going through something. Can we get that hand up there? This time, say this time, I will pass the test, and I'll never repeat it again. In fact, I'll pass it with flying colors. Not lion colors. Come on. Flying. I'm on my way to that wealthy place in consciousness. You moving on up a little higher to your next place in space, whatever it is, if it's marital, if it's with domestic concerns or with children or with finances, or you just got what you would consider an evil report from the doctor this week. They found a tumor, they found a cyst, they found a growth. Your blood pressure is down, and you're accepting what some people call generational curses because your mom and them had it, that you have to have it. I renounce that now. I declare you free and separated from any curse on your life or on your body. Just turn it away. And the healing thrust of the power of God manifests in this house. Meditation was all about medication. The ancient shaman, spiritual people, when their problem was presented to them, they went into meditation so they could come up with a salvation, a salve. That's the root word of salvation. A healing ointment. It's not to save you from God. We don't need Jesus to protect us from God. Jesus came to reconnect us to God in consciousness. The God that is the real God, you don't even have to fear that God. You can no more offend that God than you can offend air. You can no more offend that God than you can offend light or the moisture in the atmosphere. That God is not hung up with the emotions and commotions and devotions that we humans have. Dr. Beckwith said God is not a personal God, but a principle. believe more in a principle. If he's personal, he got some explaining to do. Lucille Ball, or Ricky. But as a principle, as a scientific principle and a law that works within itself, I can accept that. And that feels good in my soul. Bridging my humanity with my spirituality and with knowledge. I'm not afraid of an apple with a bite out of it. Because you become like gods. And that's only something we've forgotten to become like. Say, I'm like gods. Say it. And I like the God that I am. And I am that I am. And before Carlton, say your name, before Carlton Pearson was, I am. That's what Jesus said. I like it. Before I came from my skinless, sinless, endless self, when I was known in my mother's womb, after between 300 and 400 million microscopic seed chased her one egg, and all of them died, except the one that germinated it. Each one of you are one out of several hundred million to make it. Your parents may have decided to have you, but God decided to send you. You're here on a mission. You're here with permission. You're here with divine purpose, authorized and deputized to be here. So walk out of here in a few moments after you've given in. We've asked our questions and questioned our answers. Walk out of here in divine authority into your new world, the one you're creating starting right now. Tell somebody, say, I'm on my way to that next level. Good God. I'll see you at the top. Hey, I love you. I bless you.